welcome back to the Library of Parthos. My name is Sarah and I'm so glad you're here because we are taking our last journey into Hemlock Falls today as we wrap up the Luminaries series by Susan Dennard. This is the third and final book in the trilogy, The Whispering Night. So I am so excited to talk about this book. It's a little bittersweet because I hate leaving the series behind, but there's so much to unpack with this book. So we'll do a quick review of everything that's happened so far that's important for the plot, quick summary, and then my thoughts, and talk about which of the three books were my favorite. So stick around to see how I rank these three books in terms of which ones were my favorite and if I think that I'm going to read anything by this author in the future. So let's get started. I do have reviews for the first and the second book in this series, so I'm going to make this just a very quick overview of all of the important plot details. So our main character, Winnie Wednesday, lives in Hemlock Falls. Hemlock Falls is not a normal town by any means. Most of the people who live there have a day of the week as a last name, and they are in these clans. Each clan has a different animal, color, symbol, motto, and they're all responsible for keeping this society of luminaries functioning. Each clan is responsible for different things, whether that's science and medicine, training, education. They are each responsible for taking on a different part of the society, and all of them collectively together are hunters that are going into the woods where this mist creeps up and killing these nightmares so that they do not exit the forest and terrorize the town. In the first book, we learn that Winnie's family has been kind of exiled from this society. So her father was outed as a Diana, which is a witch, not something that they're about. And so because of that, her mother lost her position, Winnie lost her circle of friends and any hope of potentially becoming a hunter in the future. Her brother's job was affected and they were really just in a horrible position. Winnie's basically a walking, talking nightmare compendium. If there is something to know about luminary society or the nightmares in the forest, she knows it and can speak it verbatim as it is in the book. Winnie knows that there's basically nothing stopping her from joining the hunter trials that every luminary goes through to become a hunter. And so she does just that, passes her first trial, and discovers this horrible nightmare that nobody knows anything about that she lovingly calls the Whisperer. It destroys everything in its track, and as far as she knows, there's no way to kill it. Winnie ends up passing all of her hunter trials and kind of reluctantly being accepted back into society, though her actions do also help her mom and her brother. And in discovering the Whisperer, she points out to people that it's not actually a werewolf that's terrorizing and killing people, it's this other nightmare, and she's able to save a bunch of people and they're kind of welcomed back with open arms. Throughout all of this, Winnie is reunited with her two best friends, Erica Thursday and Jay Friday. More so Jay Friday in the beginning. He is a werewolf and he is hiding that, of course, because technically he's a nightmare, so they're gonna kill him. In the first and the second book, Winnie discovers that her dad may have been framed. He may not have actually been a Diana. So she is doing all of this research to try to figure out, was her dad framed? What actually happened to him? Where did he go? Because that is a little bit unclear as well. She's trying to work really hard to become a good luminary, and when she's kind of accepted back, she has to make sure that she's not kicked out again, and she's a lot of work to catch up on. And she's trying to help Jay figure out what's going on with him as well. So in the second book, we also learn that Erica Thursday, her other best friend, is a Diana as well, and that complicates things, of course. I think that's enough information to get into the third and final installment in this trilogy, so let's do just that. If you feel like you need more of a recap from books 1 and 2, please check out my other reviews where I go over everything in much more detail than I just did, but let's dig into The Whispering Night. As I mentioned in my recap, Winnie knows that her dad was framed. She's trying to figure out what happened to him, and she's also trying to figure out what's going on with the Whisperer. She now knows at this point that it's a spell cast by a Diana, but she's not quite sure how that all works. Luckily for her, she has her best friend, reluctant best friend, let's call it, Erica Thursday, who has recently become a Diana because her older sister Jenna was killed and she was a Diana. So Erica's motivation is to figure out what happened to her older sister. So she is working to kind of understand how this all works and pass that information on to Winnie, who's trying to basically carry the whole world on her shoulders, essentially. Jay is a werewolf, as we mentioned, and his transformations are happening more and more frequently. In the second book, the lead hunter of the Friday clan, which is the clan he's a part of, was killed, and so Jay is now the youngest lead hunter in clan history. Everyone's thrilled for him, except for the fact that he's a walking, talking nightmare. And so that complicates things a little bit. So there are times where he has to kind of leave engagements that he's expected to be at so that no one sees him transform into a werewolf. Major plot points throughout the story. Winnie discovers that the Dianas are not outsiders necessarily. She discovers that the Dianas are sometimes luminaries. She finds this out because in the end of the second book, there were some Dianas who were killed, and one of them happened to also be a teacher at her school. And so in investigating his office and seeing other people coming in and trying to remove evidence, she realizes that literally anyone in their society could be a Diana, even if they are claiming to be a luminary. And so that kind of complicates things in trying to figure out who these people are. We also know at this point that the Whisperer is a spell. And so in working with Erica, Winnie is trying to find a way to stop this spell. As if that's not enough on Winnie Wednesday's plate. I mean, she's what, 16, 17 in this book, so she's fairly young. And again, just carrying the whole world on her shoulders. It is time for the Midnight Masquerade, which means that all luminary societies from all over the world are visiting Hemlock Falls, and there are just events nonstop. In the past, there's been a court of students who were elected like a homecoming court, except it's the Midnight Court, I think. And this time, somebody in power has just decided that it's going to be one person, and that one person is going to be Winnie. And she's going to wear the Midnight Crown, which is typically reserved for seniors. She's not a senior. And so it's very clear that she was handpicked for that position because she's the wolf girl. She's the girl, she's basically the Harry Potter of this book. Like, everybody knows who she is. So on top of all of this stuff that she's doing, she has this very strict schedule of events that she needs to attend. Her brother is kind enough to write down what she should wear, when she should be there, the expectations for all of these different events. So for most of the book, Winnie is just juggling all of these things. One of the things that I love about Winnie, and I'll get into this more at the end, is she's unapologetically herself. And so she's not somebody who dresses up. She wears hoodies and leather jackets and boots. And so there are so many times where she's in these really uncomfortable outfits to look nice for pictures. And it's even described that it looks like she's trying to pull off something that she's not supposed to be wearing, and very quickly will slip back into a hoodie or a leather jacket or something. So there's a lot of, oddly enough, there's a lot of clothing changes in the book. One of the luminaries visiting is Signora Martedi, and she is a Diana, and she does not beat around the bush about that. It's not like a Bertold Rhina from Attack on Titan. You just kind of hear it passing in the background and have to rewind and figure out what's going on. She pretty much is like, hey, Winnie, so I'm a Diana and hate what you're doing against us. So here's the thing. Here's an ultimatum. You either find the dampener that was used to cast this spell, like find all of those pieces, or I'm going to start killing your family and friends one by one. So, you know, just add a timeline to everything that Winnie's dealing with. Throughout the story, Winnie is using her locket to communicate. So she's getting and receiving messages and can't quite figure out who they're coming from, when they're going, when they're coming, but she does get a message to go to the museum at a certain time on a certain day, and when she gets there, it's an old abandoned museum. There's this huge party. She meets with somebody who gives her old birthday cards from her father, and in the midst of all that, somebody casts a spell, and all of these nightmares just show up in the middle of the museum where all of these high school students are partying, and it is crazy. I love a good battle. I love it so much. When it is described well and it is intriguing in a book, that is, I think, some of the best writing and some of the most enjoyable reading. This was not necessarily a battle, but man, was I locked into this moment. It was so exciting seeing Jay, who happened to be there as well, just take charge and everyone switch on their hunter mode and just help each other out with No weapons, just like old chairs and things like that. So it was a really exciting moment. In the midst of all of this, of course the Whisperer shows up. Why wouldn't it? Jay is turning into a werewolf. And this was so heartbreaking. His I love you confession to Winnie was like right then as he turned into a werewolf. And from what we can tell, was eaten by the Whisperer. There's really no confirmation yes or no at this point. We are just led to believe this. So Winnie is taken into custody. She's believed to be a Diana at this point because there have been too many weird occurrences in places that she also happened to be. So she has to go through an interrogation. She manages to escape, and she hatches this big plan with the help of one of her teachers, Miss Morgan, who has kind of been helping out along the way. Like, you weren't really sure if she was helping, but you kind of thought she was. She is a defected Diana, so she moved to Hemlock Falls fully intending to give up the Diana lifestyle, and so she is willing to help Winnie. Winnie knows that time is up. The Dianas have gathered. They now have Erica Thursday, who they are going to force to recast the spell. And the whole point of doing all of this, the Whisperer was meant to awaken the spirit that sleeps under the forest. So the Luminaries believe that the spirit should stay asleep and that the nightmares just need to be dealt with. The Dianas think the spirit deserves to be set free and all of that magic should be released into the world and free for everybody to use. So that's why they are at odds throughout the entire book. Winnie knows that they're all gathered. She hatches this plan to save Erica that involves a swan boat and some fireworks, and it's very creative. This is like the moment where Winnie puts all of the pieces together. So Jay is somebody who turns into a werewolf. That's really weird. That doesn't happen. The last time it happened was 17 years ago in Hemlock Falls. Jay doesn't know who his dad is. His mom's dead. So she realizes that he is a half nightmare. So it's not a curse. It's not like he was bitten. He is a half nightmare by blood. And so just genetically, this is going to continue to happen to him. Winnie puts together that it's her, it's Erica Thursday, and it's Jay Friday. And the three of them are the key to stopping whatever is happening with the Dianas. And so she's not able to save Erica Thursday, but Erica Thursday is kind of thrown into the lake where the spirit sleeps. And Winnie enters willingly, and they both kind of enter this like spirit and are kind of then spit back out along with Jay. They don't wake the spirit up. The spell isn't successful. The Whisperer's gone and everybody's fine. So backtracking 4 years ago to what happened with Winnie's dad, we finally have all of the pieces. So he was also a defected Diana, a very high ranking, like old blood family kind of Diana. He moved to Hemlock Falls, fell in love with Winnie's mom. They got married. And Jenna Thursday joined the Dianas and like immediately hated it and wanted out. And so they were trying to convince her to cast this spell. And so Winnie's dad, Brian, and Jenna Thursday came up with a plan along with her boyfriend, Grayson Friday. So here's the plan. She would cast the spell. She would change one word. After she was done, the spell wouldn't work because she changed a word. Winnie's dad would come in and distract the Dianas. Jenna would run away. Grayson would be waiting in a vehicle and they'd drive away and everything would be perfectly fine. That is not how it went. Jenna was kind of compelled to say the spell correctly. She did finish it, though there was more that would have awoken the spirit that she didn't do. Was not destroyed by the Whisperer, but was killed by some other nightmares. Winnie's dad still tried to distract the Dianas. He was successful, but then he also got caught by Luminaries, and Grayson Friday just kind of drove away and never said a word about it, of course, is mourning the death of his girlfriend. Winnie's dad turns himself into a crow and then runs out of magic to turn himself back. So he's been a crow for 4 years. Winnie also pieces this all together because she's super smart, and she asks Erica to try to turn her dad back into a human, which she is able to do. So that's kind of the last piece of the puzzle. So at the end, it is the big culminating event of the Midnight Masquerade, which is the Masquerade Ball. Jay is performing with his band, Winnie's there with her family, her dad's back, and he's reunited with her mom. Everyone's like super happy, and it was, oh, this is such a cute moment. I love this so much. So Winnie's in the crowd, she's watching Jay play this song that he wrote for her that's introduced in the first book, and she just, from like the audience, just mouths, "I love you," and he jumps off the stage to give her a kiss and a hug. It's so cute, super sweet. I love them so much. And everyone kind of gets there happily ever after. So that is the end of the Luminary series as we know it. Now let's talk final thoughts, rank those books, and if I will read anything by this author in the future. Overall, loved this series so much. Do I think it could have been done in 2 books? Absolutely. I think particularly the second book could have been condensed a little bit more. Never stopped me from reading. In fact, I had a hard time putting this one down. I was intrigued the whole time, and so it's one of those things that like I would have been fine with 2 books, but I'm not mad about there being 3. I talked about Winnie being so true to who she is, and I think we just see that throughout the entire book. There's a moment in this book where she is kind of cursed and she can't talk about certain things to certain people. When she tries, random facts from the Nightmare Compendium come out of her mouth just because she has it memorized, and that's like already up in her brain, and I think it's so funny. At the end of the story, kind of like the epilogue, Winnie entered an art contest to draw illustrations for the Nightmare Compendium, and she's announced as the winner, and then the next 6 winners after that are all anonymous, and they're all her. She's somebody who doesn't fit in and like never feels bad about that. She's so true about who she is. This was a great mix of a book with a happy ending where for the most part, everybody got the answers that they were looking for, and in some cases we got the people back that were missing. But it's not just everything's fine, we fixed the problem, the Dianas are gone. It very much ends on the problem is gone for now, but know that the Luminaries and the Dianas are always going to be at odds, because that's how we maintain balance in this world. And I kind of love that there's a resolution, but there's not, because that's just how things need to continue happening over time for this world to just work the way it does. Overall, I was trying to think of like a tone or a vibe I could use to describe this series, and I came up with like charmingly melancholic, because it is a sad, hard world that they live in, but I want to live in it so badly. Hemlock Falls is the cutest town ever, and while the nightmares are terrifying, some of them are so interesting I just want to know more about them. So that's kind of my my vibe that I'm getting from this book, is charmingly melancholic, and I really love the tone of the series overall. So if I were to rank these books in order of which ones I enjoyed the most, book 1 is definitely at the top, followed very closely by this one, and then book 2 is last on the list. As I said, I think we could have condensed that one a little bit more, but I'm not that mad about it. So will I continue reading anything by Susan Dennard in the future? Because this was the first of her writing that I have experienced, and the answer is absolutely yes. I love the characters, the world she created with the Luminaries. I know she has at least one other series out, and so I will definitely be checking that out. So if you've read any of her other work, please let me know, or if you are enjoying the Luminaries as much as I am, let's chat about it, because I could talk about Winnie Wednesday all day, every day. So that is the end of this video. As always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.